Action.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, dude. I'm glad we're doing this, man.
I'm excited too.
You ever watch the show Entourage?
Yeah, I have.
So it's one of my
Long
favorite
time
shows,
ago.
dude. One of my favorite shows ever.
Entourage?
And they did a podcast called Victory the Podcast, which is about it's Kevin Connolly, drama, Kevin Dillon,
Yeah.
and the writer, the person that made the show, Doug Ellen. And they go through. They just talk about all.
Oh, like in real life they made a podcast?
In real life, they made it, and they made it
About
about how they made the show.
That's crazy.
And they'd go through episodes and they'd talk about the backgrounds, and then
Wow.
but they would drink while they do it, and they're all Irish except for Doug who's Jewish. So they'd open a can of beer and it'd be called Irish Crickets.
That's funny.
And it's like that, that sound. So
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm so excited to be doing this, man. What do you think?
How did you get into this?
How did I get into this?
How, when, and why?
Okay, so I wanted to do this for a long time.
This is just.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm not. I actually I vaped in college before I knew what it even was. My friend just like pulled out a vape one time, and I was like, cool. And then, but I didn't really associate it with anything. I never really got hooked on it. It was around the same time that I was smoking hookah. So when I quit hookah, I just kind of quit that too.
Yeah,
and
smart,
all went together.
I used to smoke cigs. That's why for me it's
Really?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's
How long did you smoke cigarettes for?
For years.
Mhm.
For years, like since I was like 14.
Really? So you started young?
Yeah.
I keep on hearing that. I keep on hearing when people start cigarettes now, they start at like, I feel like they start young. No one starts cigarettes when they're 22.
Yeah, exactly. Right. No,
Right?
unless you're completely like no, but then when vape came out, like the real reason for first of all, in Chicago where I grew up, it's freezing outside,
Sure.
right? In the wintertime.
Yeah.
So it's like if you smoke cigarettes and you want to go out and you need to smoke a cigarette, like you have to get your jacket on, get a hat, scully on. Like you're not just gonna go outside, right?
Right.
So then when vapes became available, I was like, wait, you can do this and it doesn't smell, it doesn't leave you could just do this and you basically you get the nicotine and you're good. Same thing. Like, oh yeah.
It's probably not as satisfying as.
It's not, but you don't stink,
Mhm.
which is you don't know how much you stink until you quit smoking cigarettes.
Well, I know with cigars.
Well, yeah,
With cigars, it hangs on to me.
Yeah.
I sometimes, if I smoke a cigar at night before I go to bed, even after I brush my teeth and I drink water and everything, the next morning I'll still wake up with a little bit of that cigar taste on my mouth, and I'm like, that's pretty gross.
Of course.
It's gotta be an indication how strong it is.
But at least cigars is like it's a unique, distinct smell. A cigarette, just stinks. When somebody comes like next to you and they just smoked and you don't smoke, it's almost offensive. It's it's really bad.
And then the people that never smell like cigarettes, but when you walk into their car reeks like cigarettes. You know what I'm talking about?
It's the worst. It's the worst.
So I don't mind. I always liked the smell of cigarettes, and I always liked the smell of weed before I started smoking even. So I didn't smoke weed until I was probably 24.
Okay.
And I was always afraid of it.
Really?
Because in high school, it was a bunch of the association was very negative,
sure.
and these kids couldn't do anything without getting baked first, and I was I don't want to be that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college, I met fully functioning stoners that were like engineers and smart, funny, normal guys that were like able to manage their lives and smoke. I'm like,
how
you
they
can be
do
normal?
They didn't smoke it during the day. They smoked it.
It depends on the person. It depends on the person. Of course, when you're in college,
it's a little different.
It's different because you kind of base your schedule around what your classes are.
Right.
So I always had, for the first 2.5 years of school, I had only classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And it was a full day. It was from probably 8:30 a.m. till about 5:36 p.m.
Okay.
With a half an hour, 45-minute break for a lunchtime or whatever. Yeah. But that means that from Thursday evening, 6,
you're free.
I was free till Tuesday. It's a 4-day weekend. It's incredible, So I did. So most of those people would be the operational stoners in the sense that they would do all their work, they would get good grades, and they could still be baked at whatever, and just still function.
Were you religious?
Yeah, I was never not religious my entire life. I don't have a rebellious kind of personality, so
it's really cool.
Yeah, I have a very, very difficult time pretending to be interested or doing something I'm not interested in.
For sure, me too.
I'm very, very hard time with it.
I'm the same way with carrying emotions on my sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like something about what someone's doing, I deal with this a lot at work. And especially with what I do, you kind of have to manage not only what the team is doing, what the customer is feeling, but you got to manage yourself reacting to it all.
Oh man!
And when techs do dumb shit, for me, it's so hard. One of my guys said to me last week, I was on the phone with him, and I was just like really getting annoyed with like some of the things he was doing. And he said something to me on the phone, and I had no reaction. Yeah. And he said it, and he like meant for me to like laugh at what he said, and he like said it like with the punchline, and I was like, okay. And he was like, laugh, dude. He's like, come on. And I'm like,
was it because you screwed up or something? Or?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And you didn't like that.
When you constantly do, either dumb shit or get caught. Like here's really what it comes down to. This is really the core of the problem. The core of the problem is that if you break trust with me, and it doesn't have to be something crazy, but if you break trust with me, in any sort of significant way, I might be able to still work with you. I might be able to still like keep you around my life, but I'm going to have a very, very hard time in an authentic way connecting with you, moving forward, and like having any sort of real respect for you.
Right.
Let me give you one example. I had a situation at work where we had an install. And for this install, the installers needed another piece of equipment in order to install this big unit. This piece of equipment that we needed was essentially a big piece of metal. It's an adapter. Okay. And it cost about $500. I told one of my techs, go pick it up and bring it to the install guys for them to install it. This is one of my better techs. Okay. He goes, drops it off to them. The adapter is designed for the unit. They called me 2 hours later and said, hey, boss, we can't use this adapter. It doesn't fit. So we're going to just leave it for you, come pick it up, and give it back to the supply house. I thought it was kind of weird, but I'm like, whatever, fine. So I tell him, go back, pick it up, bring it to the office, and then Monday, bring it back to the supply. So I see it was brought back to my office in the warehouse area. I didn't really look in the box. I just saw it. Yeah. And come Monday, he takes it to the supply house. An hour and a half later, I pull into the office, and he says to me, as he's leaving the parking lot, he goes, by the way, they wouldn't accept it.
They wouldn't accept the return?
They wouldn't accept the return. Right. Why not? He's like...
Oh, because it damaged it while I was trying to make it work, right?
It had a dent in there. I'm like, a dent? I'm like, that's weird. Why didn't they just tell me, okay, but let me go look. I look at it. There wasn't a dent. It literally looked like somebody took the adapter, flying 100 on the highway, and flew off the highway and went, bah, bah, and it completely destroyed the thing. So I think to myself, well, obviously, it seems like the reason they called me and said it didn't work is because they probably were holding it. It fell, boom, dropped. Now, this guy, one of my better techs, says to me, yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense that happened. But let's find out. So I call the guys and I go, why would you damage property and not even report it to me? Right. Well, you damaged it. That's one thing. Fine. Why would you not say anything? So the installer says to me, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, we literally left it in mint condition. So I'm like, I didn't like his response. It didn't make sense to me. The tech, the one that helped back and forth, I'm telling him, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, they said it doesn't fit. It's damaged. He's like, yeah, dude. He's like, they for sure did it. He's like, if they did it, what's the big deal? Why don't they just admit it? Say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Who cares? I'm like, exactly. What do you think I'm going to do? So I come back to these installers again and say, hey, you got to tell me the truth. I'm like, if we're going to damage property, that's already a whatever. But if we're going to lie about damaging property, I'm like, that's really where I'm going to draw the line, and we're not going to work together. If you don't admit, at least like you making a mistake, we can't work together. The guy says, do what you got to do. He's like, I didn't do it.
That's what you said, really?
That's what he says to me, right?
Do you think that's an admission of, like, that's confident, or you think that's a bluff?
Watch. This is what happened. I'll tell you what happened. Because I couldn't have predicted this situation, right? I really couldn't have. I thought he was guilty for sure. That's the truth, right? None of it made sense. Now, I have a guy who works for me, and he brought these installers to the company, and he's worked for them for years. 3-4 days later, he calls me, and he says to me, Elie, I got to talk to you. He goes, listen, man, I've worked with this guy for a long time. and he's made many mistakes. But when he makes a mistake, he always calls me and says, "Hey, help me get through this.
Right.
Help me deal with this, etc."
Yeah.
He's like, I called him and I said to him, "Why would you ruin this opportunity? Tell Elie you made a mistake and it's going to be fine. Why would you ruin it? He's going to give you so many jobs. Why would you ruin this? Like, are you dumb?" And the guy says to him, "I didn't do it."
Wow.
He says, "Tell him to check his man." So now I'm thinking to myself, like, I started really like questioning like the whole situation. I'm like my guy, like one of my right hand man, like him. I'm like, why would he? Like, none of it made sense. So I said, I know how I'm going to figure this out. See, I told him to take it back to the supply house, and when he took it back, I said to him, "Oh, when you discovered that it was damaged, you must have been humiliated." Like, think about it. Coming to the supply house, right?
Yeah, of course. And I'm here to return this.
Right?
Look at it, like,
right? You're like, "Hey, it's
joke.
brand new. We didn't use it." They say, "Sure, open it up." Like, "Ah!" Like, so he's like, his exact words to me was, "Oh, you have no idea." So I said, "All right, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call the supply house." I called the supply house. It was after hours. They were already done, and I said to him, "Call." I said, "Call me." I emailed him. I said, "Call me. This is urgent." The owner of the supply house calls me after hours, and I said, "I need to know something." When this guy went to drop off the product, what was his reaction like when you guys opened it up?
Yeah.
What was his reaction like? Was he surprised? Was he not surprised? He said, "I'll tell you what happened. That morning, we're all in the supply house, and we hear a loud banging noise. Bah, 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 bah."
Fell down the stairs?
Outside. No. He's like, "We just hear a loud banging outside." So we all go outside to see what is going on. We see your guy with a screwdriver banging the metal. So we're like, "What are you doing?" He says, "This thing came like this, and I'm trying to like fix it and return it." So they're like, "What?" He's like, "It came like this, and I'm trying to like get it back to normal to give it back to you guys." They're like, "Yeah, that's not going to work with us." Like, no.
Yeah.
They come in mint condition, brand new, in the box. Never, ever, ever happens. So this is what they tell me. So now I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. There's
your guy lied. Right?
So I called my guy, and we had to install the next day. So I said to him, I said, "Meet me at the supply house, the same supply house. Meet me there." I said, "I got to talk to you." So he shows up that morning 15, 20 minutes early, calls me. "All right, what do you want me to grab?" I said, "Nothing. I want you to wait for me." He's like, "Well, I'm already here." I'm like, "Good, wait for me." And he's like, "All right." So I get there. The first thing he does is, "All right, what's going on? What did I do?" So I said to him like this. I said, "Look, bro." I said, "I'm going to explain something to you right now. I need you to hear what I'm going to say to you very, very carefully. I did a very thorough investigation on this stupid situation that shouldn't have been even a big deal, but it forced me to do it. And here's what I've discovered. There were only two people that had access to this equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It was you and it was them. And what I know beyond a shadow of doubt, 100%, 100%, is they did not damage my shit. They did not." So he's like, "What are you trying to say?" I'm like, let me do this one more time because I need you to pay attention. For sure, they did not damage my shit.
Right.
So he was, "You trying to say that?" And I said to him, after about 5 minutes back and forth, I said, "This is what I'm going to tell you, bro." He goes, "Well, what do you think happened?" I'm like, "I'll tell you what I think happened. I think that it flew off your truck. I think you damaged it. I think you panicked and you lied because you panicked and you essentially let these other people take the blame for it." He's like, "That's not what happened." I said, "Then what happened?" He said, "Well, what might have happened." This is when you know, like, that you're about to like bring it all in. Let's like, all right, let's bring it all in. So what might have happened is we were emptying out the metal out of my truck, and this other guy, his helper, might have by mistake threw it, not realizing that it was a piece of equipment instead of trash, and they damaged it. So I said to him, I said, "All right," I said, "let's just get on the same page. This situation did a lot of damage, not because it was a
Big deal.
right, but because you broke trust with me. Number one. Number two, you look like an idiot in front of the supply house. Number three, you almost got two innocent people fired.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That was really what bothered me. You literally were telling me in my ear, "Why don't they just admit it? I don't understand it. What's the big deal?" Like, that's really low. That's really, really low. I said, you made yourself look like an idiot in front of the supply house. You almost got people fired. You broke trust with me. And for what? For a box that was $400.
Right.
Like, honestly, I probably wouldn't have even made you pay it back. I probably would have just been like, whatever.
Yeah.
But because you did all this, so he apologized basically for the next couple of days. The problem is that now what this did in this situation is it led me down on a domino chain of situations that he would tell me and say, this customer, he said this, but he's really lying, and I took his side. There were times where he would like say something, and I get mad at a customer because of what he said.
Yeah.
And then I started to second guess everything. I started to think back about this situation and that situation and this situation, and then I realized, like, holy cow, what if this guy's playing me the whole time? And
Can you talk that out with him? Can you say, like, listen, dude, like, I'm having, like, because of this, I'm having a hard time believing other things you've said, and how do we work to get the trust back? Like, I think it's that's such an important way to go about it, because otherwise it's going to keep on building up in your head, and it's going to keep on building up for him that, like, my boss doesn't trust me.
Here's the problem. The answer is yes, and I did do that, right? The problem is this: is when you mess up, right? You gotta really like be on point moving forward. There can't be any more BS. You can't be late to work. You can't be doing dumb shit, right? Like, you got to be on point.
Yeah.
If you mess up and you still, after that,
act like everything's normal.
You still act like nothing is wrong, and like you come late to jobs and you still BS. At that point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna begin to say in my head, all right, clearly this person doesn't see the vision for the company, and I'm gonna start recruiting other people to come on board. Right. I'm gonna start getting them ready, and I'm gonna basically prepare for his exit. Meaning, I might not tell you I'm
here. Soft fire hit.
Right.
I'm giving less and less jobs.
That's exactly it.
Listen,
That's
I gotta
exactly
get somewhere else.
you can't come to work on time. And I explained many times, I pay a lot of money for ads. So when we get an appointment and you get that appointment,
online ads or
online ads. We spend a ton of money on that.
Google. How do you
Facebook paid traffic.
Dude, Facebook paid traffic. You do. You don't do you do Facebook,
Instagram, TikTok, all that.
You do.
We spend.
Do you get a lot of conversions through that?
I mean, yeah, we built the company that where we are right now. We are,
this company already existed when you moved down to Florida?
No.
You started this?
I started this year.
And when you were in Chicago,
that was a different company.
2 years ago.
That was a different company, yeah.
So then when you were living in Chicago, you were working for someone? It was also your own business.
I had a different company, but it was a different business model. The model in Chicago was what we did, it was 95% new installs and very few, like, I rarely did any maintenance. I didn't do maintenance at all. There were some times when I would, by mistake, walk into a house where it's supposed to be like a estimate.
Yeah.
And I see that you have already a new system, but let's say it's a furnace up there. So it's like your board and your inducer motor are shattered. So I'll sell you a board and an inducer motor, and then I'll send in one of my guys to do it once in a while. But usually it was just, I'd go
putting things in and coming and going.
Exactly. Here, we're building a full scale, full service HVAC company. Couple hundred 5-star reviews, very clean reputation.
I know, I saw that by the way. But I saw that I saw that. First of all, your Google ads, your Google pages feedback is excellent.
Yeah, you have.
It's pristine, dude.
You have to.
Yeah, that's my company's biggest problem, by the way. That we don't follow up enough with people that have them give us reviews. Because the problem is, and I've noticed, and this not most reviews are bad reviews. Why? Because if someone gets a service that they're expecting, they're like, okay, great, it worked great, and then move on. And maybe they'll tell a friend about it, but they don't go online and post about it for the most part. But if you're upset and you go online and I'm going to trash this person everywhere, And
I just read that. Mark Cuban has a book that's not really published. It's self-published. It's called How to Win. I think it's like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like How to Win in the Business of Sport, in the sport of business. He said that when you have a happy customer might tell one person.
Yeah.
When you have an unhappy customer, they will tell 20 people, create a YouTube channel, do a video. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll tell the Jeep dealership this Jeep dealership.
Okay.
They almost pushed me to a level where I was about to drop some serious bombs on their head, and I was not. What they did was, I had a situation in my car. I had my Trackhawk with the Hellcat engine, It was overheating. Okay. And to stop your
Do you know cars well?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay. A little bit, yeah. I mean, I especially those type of cars. I've had like good, like fast race, fast cars, but also I got the track out because I was able to have my kids in there and just let them run. But I like fast cars. So the engine there is like the main component of the car. Instead, it's overheating. Shut it off. So I panicked. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take it to specifically this dealership because I don't want a regular mechanic to mess up my supercharger. Right? It's very expensive. I take it over to them. They waited a week and they said to me, all right, the reason this happened is because your pump is broken and because it's going to cost you $3,500. I'm like, what? Like, yeah. I'm like, can we do a little better? Okay, maybe a little bit better, but that's about it. $3,000. Okay. I was not happy about it. They did it. They sent me a request for a review. I'm like, screw up. I'm not giving you a review. Like, I'm not even happy about the situation, right?
Right. Why do you feel like he was overpaid? Like,
well, listen, I'll tell you. It circles back. Well, the part itself was a few $100, right? Okay.
The labor, you figure.
The labor, you're going to charge me 5 times. I mean, it was just crazy. Like, I'm in the service business, so I kind of have an idea of like parts versus labor, and like if something costs, let's say the equipment costs, let's say the piece costs $2,000, and I charge you $12,000. That's like, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. I don't know. That's to me, that's a lot. If it costs $2,000 for me to buy, and I don't know, maybe $2,000. It's kind of a bulky number, and I deal with bulkier stuff. Car parts, I don't know. I just felt like it was I didn't say anything. Like, I didn't argue with him. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, of course.
$3,000 for a pump.
Okay.
Fine, take it. 2 weeks later, I'm driving 7:30 or 7 in the morning. Literally the same thing happens.
No.
Engine overheats. Thermostat goes all the way up. Says stop the car. Engine, stop the car. I'm like, there is no way. There is no way. So I call him and I was so pissed. By the way, from the time I left the dealership till this point, randomly they've called me and checked how the car was doing like 3-4 different times, which is odd. And every time I'd come to the car, the oil would be gone, and I would take pictures and send it to the guy and be like, what's going on? Something is going on. I knew from the beginning something was off. And I have a whole track record of pictures showing that I would text him every day, like, what's going on? Look, what's going on? Look, videos, texts. So I have a whole thing back at me. He's like, don't worry, we'll take it in, we'll take a look. If it's the same problem, it's under warranty. I said to him, listen, man, I said, please, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your dealership a favor. Don't start this with me. Just fix my car. It's the same shit, same symptoms, same everything. Just fix it, man. You misdiagnosed it, fine. Just fix it. They hold my car for 4 days. They call me back and say, it's not the pump. Your pump is perfectly fine. Actually, what's causing the same exact problem is now your hoses are disconnected. And now it's going to be another couple $1,000s. So this is what I did. I said, listen, man. I said, I promise you, this feels like you're trying to, play me as a sucker. And I promise you, I'm going to escalate this to a level that is not going to be fun for anybody. Just don't call back. Give me 1 second.
By the way, the problem with cars in general is that there are so many moving parts, and there's so many things, and then the dealership doesn't want to take the hit for misdiagnosing. You take the hit,
but that when we're talking about a hit in the
this is
thousands of dollars at a time.
Yeah.
Basically, they were trying to bully me for another $2,200. So basically, this is what I said. I said, I'm not going to pay this money. Like, it's out of question. Meaning, you for sure, it was literally the same symptom. I mean, it can't be
that changed.
It's like, and I told him, I'm like, imagine this. Imagine I come to your house and you tell me that your AC is frozen, right? And I come to your house and I say, you need to pay me, let's say $1,500 for a new blower motor. Okay? I put in a new blower motor. You weren't happy, but you did it. You had to do it. You did it. 2 weeks later, you come home, it's frozen again. You call me like, what the hell, dude? I just paid you $1,500 to fix it. Don't worry about it. I'll come over, take a look at it. I come over there, say, good news. The blower motor is actually doing great. But now it's the leak. It's the leak that's causing this. You look at me like, are you stupid or you think I'm stupid? The same thing, the same symptom, the same thing is caused by two at the same time.
Yeah.
So I literally drove over there and I told the manager, I said, look, man, I said, I'm not going to pay this. I think you guys misdiagnosed it. You knew you misdiagnosed it because from the beginning, from day one, I had problems. I kept telling this guy something's off. I said, look, we're going to do it one of two ways. Either A, you guys are going to handle this like gentlemen, or B, I'm going to create, I have a marketing team that works for me. I'm going to create an ad and I'm literally going to I'm going to plaster a video all over Hollywood, and I'm going to target your dealership, your employees, their families, and everyone who lives in a 5 mile radius. And I'm just going to tell my story, how you're literally taking advantage of people who are trusting you. And I promise you, I'm going to take the money that you're asking me to give you, and I'll put it into ads. And I have a team ready to go. All I got to do is put the camera on my face and tell the story. Right. I promise you I will do it. Right. And they knew I was serious. And I wasn't threatening them. I was dead ass serious. Like, I will do this because you do this to me, you're doing this to other people. It's not cool. It's just not. You made a mistake. Yeah. I'm sorry. We made a mistake. You should have known you made a mistake because from day one and day two and day three and day four, I showed you I have a lot of problems. You should have just been like, bring it back. Anyways, I'm not sure how we got into the Jeep conversation, but I
can tell you how. It's because the lack of trust.
Business, lack of trust. I was telling you about that. Telling him. I was telling you about the technician.
Yeah, so you're telling me about the companies. You said that you previously that this was your new company.
This is a new company, right? So my
started 2 years ago.
2 years ago, I came here. I literally had the only thing I had was my experience, and the fact that I have done.
Why'd you move down here?
Because we used to come here for winter break for my kids, and we come here in January. I'm already in the industry. And we used to come here, we'd go out, we'd get Airbnb with a basketball court and a swimming pool. And I would love it. And I was like, I'd love to live here. And and I could work here. There's a lot of things I didn't,
take into consideration,
right? But at the outset, it was like, it's warm.
Yeah.
I sell AC. I sell HVAC. I know this industry.
Yeah.
I've started a company from nothing before and grown. So like, why can't I do it here? And I remember when I was in Chicago.
Was it scary to do?
It was not scary. It should have been scary to do. It was not scary to do. It became scary. I'll tell you when it became scary. It became scary when I got off the plane. So I tell my wife, this is the plan. She said, okay, go out there. I'll fly back every other week. And God willing, if it starts to, work, then we'll all move down there. Fine, because it is kind of silly to just bring everybody in.
Does your wife work?
And not, huh?
Does your wife work?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. She did at the time though, like in Chicago, she did.
Okay.
I went out here, and in Chicago, all you need to be an HVAC it's called an EPA certification, which is basically a certification that allows you to like deal with Freon. That's all.
EPA is Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Just deal with Freon the right way. And I came down here. I go to the supply house. I go to a supply house that has a chain in Chicago that I did huge numbers for. And I came in there and I said, my name is so-and-so, and I'd like to open an account with you. And I've done a lot of business with your chain in Chicago. So they were like, no problem. They said, here's the application. We need a copy of your license and whatever. So I filled out the application and I put my driver's license on the table. And I put my driver's license on the table, and they look at me like, no, we need your license. And I was like, okay, they must mean the EPA. I'm like, all right, fine. So I take my EPA card and I put it on the table, and they look at me like I have 3 heads on my shoulders. They're like, dude, we need your contractor's license.
You need a contractor's license to do HVAC.
I was like, huh? Wow. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, we need a contractor's license. I'm like, honestly, dude, I didn't even know what the hell that was. Because I came from a different state that allowed me to build with my certificate. What's a contractor's license? Right. And they're like, yeah, dude. They're like, you can't open an account pretty much anywhere. You can, but pretty much anywhere, like legit, if you don't have a contractor's license. So I was like,
you had to get one.
Huh?
Did you get one?
Yeah.
Okay. But is that hard to do?
It's a whole different story. I'll tell you for another time. Very, very long and painful process. But the point is that my first day here, my goal is to go and open 3-4 different supply accounts so I can begin putting the pieces in play. First day, stop me dead in my tracks. Right. So talk about were you scared? I should have been scared. But I should have been very scared. But at that point, I'm already here. Yeah. I already sold my wife on the idea. sold my parents on the idea, sold my brothers on the idea, sold my kids on the idea.
Really?
I got the house.
Everyone was happy. Everyone was happy to go down to.
Everybody was like, it's waiting to see, like, are you going to make this happen or not?
Are they going to follow you down here now that you're here? Is anyone in your family going to move?
My brother would like to. My parents. So my grandma still lives with them. She's like very old. So while she's alive, they can't do it because they can't live alone. But we'll see after that. But yeah, I mean that's the goal. Hopefully they have them here at least part of the year. But dude, I had enough. Look, at the end of the day, I'm nothing special. The only thing I know is that I'm pretty good with people. I'm pretty driven. I like this industry. Don't love it, like it.
You don't love it, you like it.
Don't love it, like it. And at the end of the day, I feel like if you're driven, if you're decent with people and you got a product that people need, you have a shot. In Florida, the good news is that tremendous opportunity.
Yeah.
The bad news is tremendous opportunity equals tremendous competition.
Yeah.
And competition's in different levels, meaning you got the guys that are bigger than you, but then you also got the guys that are much smaller than you that are undercutting.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy undercutting prices where it's like you tell somebody 7,000 and they come up and be like, oh, we do it for 4,200. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like prices where they're willing to do it for $200 profit.
Yeah.
Something stupid.
Sure.
And the customer doesn't understand that. Well, once they take that job, it's over with. For the customer, it's over with because as soon as they finish and leave, you are screwed, and you will never hear from them again because they don't have a way. Meaning that business
they don't make enough money in between.
They don't have a business model they can come and service you. What are you talking about? They're going to take your $300 profit.
We're that company in my industry.
What do you guys do?
We sell medical equipment, so refurbished medical equipment. We sell it. So we let's say a hospital will call me. My dad, because it's a family business.
Okay.
And they'll say, hey, we want to buy this machine or private practice, and we also have this machine that we're done using. It's broken or it's on trade-in and it's just 20 years old, whatever. If you want it, can we get a credit for it?
Okay.
Or something. So we'll take the machine on trade-in. We'll refurbish it in house. We have 2 to 3 technicians, and then we'll resell it. Or people just call. Dealers will call us and buy. And say, hey,
to other medical companies.
To other, yeah. So most people don't buy. Most practices today don't buy new equipment because the new equipment is say a new ultrasound machine can be $80,000, $100,000, $150,000. My average cost that I sell the machine for is probably 15 grand.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so pretty significant difference. And if you're a mom and pop OBGYN, right, and you're just trying to compete with the local hospital,
you're perfect.
Excuse me, yeah, then you need you can't buy brand new. You can't do it, So so we have so we have a warranty so there's 3 or 4 really big players in the game. I'd say like really big companies that got a lot of backing and they went corporate and they expanded big time and then they bought out other little companies and they have an enormous amount of overhead. So, a machine that I literally sell for $8,500, they quote for $23,000. And so, so a lot of times my customers actually call me and be like, it's so strange. He goes, listen, I don't know you, I don't know them. Why are you quoting $10,000 less than they are? Right. And then I'll tell them, I'm not trying to rip your eyes out. I was like, we're a 5-person company that we rely on our relationship and our reputation and the fact that you guys, if you guys have a good experience, you'll come back to us and recommend us. And number 2, it's like we have no overhead. I was like, what do we pay? I said, so we have a warehouse, and not even a warehouse. We have one warehouse. We have an office where 5 people work. Right. You have 4 employees, and that's it. I was like, that's your overhead. So you're not paying, and then our ad money, whatever it is, But that's nothing. So I was like, so we have way more wiggle room just in general to work with people. Someone called me up and say, so my first question is always, what's your budget? Right. Because I know what we buy. I know what we're buying for, and I say, oh, usually this is $25,000. I give it to you for 17 today. I give you for 12 today. I give you for 20.
Is it new versus used?
It's mostly used or refurbished.
No, I'm saying 25,000 brand new. Versus...
No, 25,000 refurbished, and I'm giving you for 17 or 15,000 refurbished.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
everybody sells refurbished.
A lot of people do.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I get private practices, universities, occasional smaller hospitals. And then imaging centers, but the big hospitals, they have all the money in the world. Right, they don't care. They'll buy it, for $150,000 and not think twice about it, and that's the end of it, But and it's a cool business. Also, my dad started, but it's almost economy proof because it's refurbished. So when things are going well, you sell higher end stuff, and things aren't going well, you're still selling used refurbished stuff that everyone needs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, the only time that it was hard was COVID, because most elective most elective doctor appointments were being canceled. Right, no one was going in for an ultrasound generally to see the baby every now and then, maybe.
Right.
Or you weren't going in for a sports doctor.
Right.
You're not going to the doctor. You're staying home.
You guys felt that.
So yeah, so we actually sold a lot of patient monitors to take your pulse and keep for hospitals.
Okay.
And then my dad sold masks and PPE. Is that what it's called? Like the hospital gowns, masks.
Oh, I got you.
Stuff like that. And people made and lost millions with PPE during COVID because, for example, let's just say masks. For example, right? The masks were, you have like one of those boxes. They're generally,
I'm feeling messed up.
No, you didn't, dude. Because I'll tell you why. There's someone 2 or 3 years younger than me. He's probably 26 now.
Okay.
He himself made and lost probably $500,000.
Okay.
Because you buy buy a box of masks for $8 a box, right? Or $7 a box,
right?
And you sell it for 12, 15, depending what time during COVID.
Yeah.
And then at one point, the shipments of masks from China stopped coming in.
Right.
Got held up at the port, or something with COVID, just not happening. Right. Supply crashed. There was very little available. Whoever had anything was selling for $20, $25, $30 a box that they paid $6, $7 for. And they're selling in the hundreds to the thousands to hospitals.
Wow.
Because everyone needs them. A nurse would walk into a room, put a mask on, walk out of the room, take it off, throw it away, and put another one on, right? And but
sir, can you please put on a mask?
But I'll tell you a funny story about that after also. But and then one day, literally it was one day, the ship from China came in with all the masks, and overnight masks went from being worth $25, $30 a box, or $15, $20, or whatever it is, to being worth $4 or $5 a box, because the market just got flooded, and then the people that were paying more to get it in, right? Okay, no, I gotta, it's on back order. Let me just get in line. Let me get in line. I'll pay $8, $10, $15 a box, and they got rocked. And so so the people that got in when the price was okay made a killing, but a lot of people that weren't the first ones in, that were waiting like along with everyone else, they all watched as like they got stuck with this inventory. They got stuck with thousands of pallets of masks that no one wanted. They couldn't do anything with. So the smart people kept it up, and then even after COVID, and after people chilled out with masks, they would still sell them to like restaurants in like places like New York and Chicago and LA, or they'd sell them to like random doctors' offices or whatever. That would still use them every now and then.
Not as much.
Yeah, but not as. Or someone I met here in Hollywood selling to mechanics, because he was like, listen, they're cheap, and like apparently mechanics, I don't know,
breathing like whatever.
Yeah, breathing whatever, like to stop that. But it was really cool. It was crazy. When I was my thing with masks, I wasn't sure about them the whole time. Okay. But the way that I really went about it was, I wasn't personally ever really afraid of COVID. Right. I was afraid for the first couple of months. I was like, we have no idea what the heck this is, right? Then it seemed like if you were a relatively healthy person, you're going to be okay. Right. And then, I kept on hearing conflicting about masks. But what I did realize, and what I really wanted to be very thoughtful about, was a lot of times, say for example, right, like I walk into a little like bookshop upstate New York, right, and it says a big sign on the door, please wear a mask when you walk in. Listen, I'm walking into your place of business. Right. This is your private property, and I'm not going to be the jerk that walks in and just upsets you. Like, if you asked me, if you told me to wear a long sleeve shirt, I would do it.
No, I get what you're saying.
You're coming into a private establishment, and they're entitled to say what they want, and you're entitled to not go to them anymore if you don't want to. So I would try. I would do my best to be respectful about that. So I was living in Seattle in 2019 to 2020. So COVID hit halfway through me living there. Okay. And I drove there and I drove back. I drove from New York to Seattle and drove back from Seattle, and amazing road trips both times. Right on. But on the way back, it was still in the middle of COVID. Everything was shut down. I'm in Wyoming. Okay. We're right about to get into Yellowstone, actually. That's cool. And my car needs an oil change. And so I stop off, and when I'm walking around, I see a local pawn shop that, next door to the oil change place. Okay. So I would stop in and see what they have. Yeah. And I put on a mask because, again, it's the middle of COVID, and I don't know whether this place, wants me to wear it or not. What the hell are you? It's like an 80-year-old woman. The first thing I see is they don't want me working. The entire wall behind the desk is all guns. Nice. and then they sell like guitars, and they sell like other tchotchkes and stuff like that. And then I walk in, I'm wearing a mask. She goes, you just walked into a gun shop with a mask on, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm not trying to say anything or imply anything. She's like, I am. And I'm like, all right. I was like, listen, I'm just gonna take this electric guitar. How much is this? And they're like, I don't know, $100. I was like, I'll take that. And I'll get out of your hair. Yeah, okay.
I hated it. I hated the masks. Mm-hmm. I hated the people that would tell me to wear the masks. I hated the people that would like walk outside in the car by themselves with the mask. Yeah. It drove me nuts. I was very judgmental about it. I was also in a very like weird phase where at that point in my life, I was going from that was like COVID time is when I like started the HVAC company, but like right as it started. So like right in the beginning of it, mm-hmm. I wasn't doing anything, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and I built like this big social media account with many people that followed it, and it was all political. What was it about? Oh, political? All political, toxic.
Are you a very political person?
I have my beliefs, and I'm very like straight on my beliefs. There's no bone in my body that will ever get like convinced otherwise that the other side is right. Meaning, I'm not saying everything they do is wrong or everything that my side is. I'm conservative, and like I don't like just in general liberal ideas as a whole go against what I believe as a person. As a whole, not everything, right? As a whole, though.
You say generally speaking.
Right. Generally speaking, everything that...
Throw a dart at a wall, and chances are you probably won't agree with it.
Exactly. So everything that masks are represented for me were like liberals, right? Like it was a liberal ideology of like how to behave, how to act, how not to act. Sure. And I just hated it all. And I created this, I'll tell you, the first video that I've ever made that went viral, I'm talking about like very viral, where I would I would refresh the page, mm-hmm. and I would have 10,000 more views.
Wow, it's crazy.
And I'd refresh the page and 10,000. I'm talking about.
It's crazy.
I remember where I was sitting. Okay, that video, I remember who I was with, where I was sitting. I think I remember what day of the week it was because it was such a crazy experience.
Sure.
Like I had this TikTok account that I had for like 6 months at the time. I'd post like videos here and there, like didn't do much with it. That morning, I was walking my kid to camp, and I decided to shoot a 60-second video. And that 60-second video, it just came to my mind, and I think I called it. The name of the video was called "The Liberal Agenda." And basically, I basically just just said a couple words about what was happening in the world, what it looked like was gonna happen, right. And at the end I said, and there you go, folks, that is what I call the liberal agenda.
Yes.
Put the phone away. It didn't even think about it. That day at about 4:45 p.m., I have a friend who's a doctor. I went to the hospital to visit him, to say what's up to him, to just schmooze with him. Okay. I was on the top floor, and I remember I was in the waiting area, and I was looking outside the window, and I randomly took my phone out.
Yeah.
And I see the TikTok sign had a bunch of like red
bubbles. The notification bubbles, yeah.
Like, that's interesting. I usually don't get any notifications. I'm like, I wonder what's this all about.
Yeah.
Dude, I looked, and it said, I don't know if it said 1,000 or 10,000 the first time I looked. But I was like, what? And I remember I scrolled down, and boom, and I'm talking comment after comment after comment after comment after comment after comment, and I was shocked.
Were you reading all of them?
Huh?
Were you reading all of them?
I was literally like this. I would go like this, and I'd be answering. I was like, oh my God. I was answering them. I would refresh it, and it was insane. Literally insane. While that was happening,
you're riding an adrenaline rush.
Yes.
You're like...
my head went crazy. While this was happening, what I did was I stopped in the middle of this whole situation. I was like, I got to go outside right now and film another video similar and see if that catches fire.
Right.
And I did, and it did.
Right.
And I said, no.
Because once you picked up, once you get that traffic, then
It wasn't just about the traffic. At that moment, I had figured out by mistake, by pure luck, the right message to the right audience,
right,
with the right hashtags,
right,
with the right, just, it's like by mistake, hit the right combination. And I ran with it. The thing is this, the channel grew and grew and grew, and tens and tens and tens and hundreds of thousands of people would follow it and views. It was, I'll tell you, for the first little bit, for the first couple months, I really liked it. What I noticed afterwards was that I would literally spend the entire day. When I say the entire day, I'm talking about like the beginning of the day, end of the day, arguing with liberals,
yeah,
fighting with liberals, looking for crazy like stories about what liberal politician, PDF file was like.
Exhausting.
It was exhausting, and at the end of the day, I was like, I have to be honest with myself. I'm like, okay, what's the end game? And I'd go live, dude, and like a few thousand people would jump on.
Right.
And then it's like, what's the end game, right? The end game is that I'm not going to be a political commentator, nor do I want to be. I just kind of hit on something that worked for a little bit.
Right.
And I'll tell you something really funny. Just to see if this worked, I have an account. I could show it to you. I started. This was literally just to see if I'd be able to recreate it, just to see if it would work.
Yeah.
Let me just see if it would work. I started an account 2 months ago. This is like 4 years, 5 years later.
Right.
2 months ago, I started an account on TikTok, and I made a couple videos, similar fashion.
Yeah.
I think as soon as I made like the third video, it hit 100,000 views.
Whoa!
It was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Second video, 150,000 views, and immediately, and I realized again, what's the point?
What's the common underlying similarity between the first ones and the second one that you think caught?
What it is that if you want to grow,
was it your message? It
was a us against them.
That's the problem.
It was us against them. It was a strong belief. Right. It was also laughing at. I think the video that I'm talking about that really exploded was I seen a article that said that Tom Hanks said that if Trump wins, he's leaving the United States.
Yeah.
And I basically did a green screen with him in the background. And I basically said something to the effect of, I'm like, I don't understand. I was like, here goes another Holly weirdo that's trying to tell us that if Trump wins. I'm like, I don't know what kind of reaction these guys are looking for, but go ahead, Tom, leave, dumbass. Yeah. And that's all I said. It was like 20 seconds. Video exploded.
Yeah.
Tons of followers, tons of comments, tons of views. But again, for me, the message is polarizing. You got to have a message that's polarizing. You have to stand for something. You have to create enemies in a degree. Meaning, if you want to succeed in the content creation world, you're not going to succeed being vanilla. For sure not. Meaning and this is a very difficult thing to understand. You could hear it and like understand it on a logical, but you have to really like
embody it.
Yeah, embody what I'm saying. Like, if you don't have a message that some people love and some people hate, you have no chance of
exploding. Way more emphasis on the hate, though.
It could be, meaning
if somebody's device. I was just reading this in a book just today, actually. Articles with negative words in the headline
totally
gets 2% more views per word, per negative word, right? So if you write,
for sure,
rapid death toll spikes, among poor Black Chicago citizens, right? Every single negative word there raises the
interest.
Raises the viewership by 10%. So 2%, 4%, 6% compounded, you get far more viewership.
Versus saying something positive.
Correct.
It's true.
Correct.
It's true. That's why it's a tricky with the whole politics thing. I pretty much came to a conclusion that I can grow a channel to a couple 100,000 to 1 million subscribers within, let's say, a year if I do it full time. The problem is
you get paid nicely for that too, right?
That once you get it big, once you get it big enough, then yes. But to get it to go that big, You have to be ready to go in for that ride of being all in, full time, completely. And I don't want to do that. I will do business content. I will do business vlogs, face to cam videos, business experiences, lessons learned, story time, business shit all day long. But not politics. Because I am a conservative.
Have you always been?
I'll tell you this, when I was growing up, I wasn't much into any of that, right? I didn't know much about it. When I got to be like 25 years old, my dad started seeming more right to me as I got a little bit older. I realized like how right my dad has been in life, period. With the things
just the values and
everything, and like the things that I used to think were good and he used to hate, I'm beginning to realize that he was right, I was wrong. And I started to kind of move to this side of the road and this side of the street. And then the more like he would say certain things, the more it makes sense because it was the truth. It wasn't about my like bias. It was like, you're telling me the truth. Let's just take a look. Let's just look at what you're saying. Is it because it's my dad or it's the truth? It's the truth. The fact that it's my dad makes me like double down on it. But it's the truth. If you're telling me,
so your dad's pretty conservative, and then
my dad's conservative. Yeah, we're all, and I'm lucky. My family, I'm very lucky. We're all like that. None of my family, none of my brothers.
Thanksgiving about.
None of my brothers. We don't have like one liberal brother that is like no. We're all the same to a degree. Not everybody's maybe outspoken or extreme, but like we're all very conservative. We're all kind of like on the right side of the street. We all see the truth of the matter is that as a kid, like you gotta, we learn what's right and what's wrong, and
because they typically are more in line with
that's exactly what I'm saying. As a
by the way, but there is plenty of. It's very interesting because politics and left and right is a pendulum. I think that there's different degrees of what things are and to what extent. Like today's conservatives, if you like talk about like the top talking points that like conservatives care about today, which is like freedom of speech, no censorship, I want the right to just live my own life without anyone breathing down my neck or telling me how I should be doing things. That's 50s, 60s, 70s liberalism, right? That's what the Grateful Dead was. That's what the hippie movement. That's what the beatnik movement was. That these were like traditionally liberal ideal.
Because the left went so far left that now the conservatives seem pretty liberal when they're talking about that. Because think about it, right? Before it would be the conservatives would be over here. And that's what these guys were talking about back in the day. Now, you're right. It does seem that way.
But it's confusing. What's interesting to me, what's kind of telling, is that someone that was, if you have like an older, let's say someone above the age of 60, right, that was a liberal, you would think that if what they really cared about when they were young and getting more politically active and involved, you would think that today they would be more conservative. Right, because it's following along the same train of thought and the same values. And if you really think those values are the correct values, then you would kind. And I wouldn't even say ride the tide, because I think it's almost silly to give names to clumps of ideas. As opposed to being more nuanced and just saying like, well, what do you think? Like, you can say I generally am more conservative in my values, meaning I don't look to I have a sense of what is wholesome, what is right, what is valuable, and I like to stay within those boundaries, and then you could hear a topic, you could hear a conversation, and you could take your values and see where that topic fits in. Does it fit within those lanes, or does it go on the outside of it? And then you can determine it. But now, like, if someone said, for example, I'm pro free speech, they'd be like, "Oh, what are you, conservative?" Well, what is that? Like, what is that? So it's strange to me. I think the whole thing is strange.
The problem with for me at least, the problem that I have with the group of as the liberals, as I would consider them, is that if you look at the world today, we live in a very, very upside down, hypocritical world. Here's what I mean. Okay. The war that's happening right now is one example.
Which one? Israel?
The Israeli war. The Israeli war is one example. Now, October 7th, a group of individuals runs into a country, slaughters, kills, etc., a group of people. Mm-hmm. The next day, protests started to happen.
And like 93% were pro.
Watch this. Watch this. It gets even worse. The day after that, you got Hezbollah. So even like the worst of enemies know, like if your enemy is like down and injured, yes, there's one idea of like you go finish them off, but that's not what they did. What they did is they saw that there was this great tragedy that happened, and instead of at least just taking a second and be human just for a day, but they're not. But for a day, they started throwing rockets. Now they kept doing that for 11 months.
Right.
Until Israel said, all right, enough's enough. And they went, and over the last couple of weeks, they killed all their leaders.
Yeah.
And they basically, now the whole world is screaming, Israel is criminals and it's ceasefire. Let me ask you a question. Like, it never ceases to amaze me. By the way, everybody that's screaming, for the most part, not everybody, but majority of people that talk like this are liberals that scream ceasefire and all.
A lot of independents recently too.
That's true.
Because a lot of independents feel like this has been going on for longer than it needs to.
That's true. And the truth is that I give Israel blame for that.
As an American, I can hear that.
Yes, exactly. But I'll tell you this.
But as a Jew, it's hard.
Israel should have stopped worrying about what Biden has to say, just like they have recently, and just handle their business quickly and efficiently. But because they were so worried about what the Biden administration had to say, it was done very slowly. And
out of curiosity, your thoughts, really, because I'm not sure what I think. Out of curiosity, do you? I don't know how likely it is that Israel doesn't know where the remaining hostages are.
I think they
there's not many places they could be left. So like I don't understand what has been.
I tell you what the problem is. Yeah. I think what the problem is. I spoke to somebody about this. If Israel could have done what they've done in the past month and showed this kind of skill, they not only know where they are.
Yeah, but they should have gone. They should have gotten them out.
Well, here's the thing. There's a very good chance that Yahya Sinwar is with the hostages. Literally, they're with him, and he's using that as a way because he knows that Israel's never going to bomb him.
Right.
If they're with him.
Human shields.
So they for sure, in my opinion, are with him. They for sure probably know where he's at. The problem is that someone's mentioned yesterday, what they might want to do is they might not want to kill him right now. What they might want to do is they might want to capture him and try him in front of the whole world and then hang him. Right? Like they did to the Nazis. Right. So it's possible, meaning, but at the end of the day, the way I look at it is everyone is telling Israel, like, dude, they were shooting rockets for 11 months. Why didn't anybody tell them to stop?
Yeah.
Like, did anybody for one time say, guys, can you stop?
Yeah.
Nobody said anything. Now that they're getting killed, if you can't stand the heat, stay out the kitchen.
Right.
You guys wanted smoke? You got smoke.
And I bet, like what you said about the reason why your thing was successful is because we live in a world of echo chambers today. You know, where if you go on your Twitter, what are the odds that you're going to find tremendously anti-Israel rhetoric? But my point is that you don't really get it because Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they know what you're looking for. They know you. Google knows you. Google knows that you're not going to engage in pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian.
They show me. Maybe they got me confused because I see so much of it.
I mean, my Twitter doesn't know. My Twitter doesn't know me at all.
It's the worst.
It's so funny.
I hate it because all I see is these Arab sympathizers, and like again, it's cowards that really have no information that picked a side without knowing anything. And here's the deal: if you're gonna pick a side, at least like have a reason for picking a side. There's a country that we're the little guy.
Right.
We got attacked by the big guy. And when in history does the little guy get attacked by the big guy and then everybody like gangs up against the little guy? It's usually the opposite. Right. If the big guy picks on the little guy, everybody says. So, we live in an upside down world. And the majority of people that go against Israel, the majority are liberals and some of the independents. I can't stand them either, even though I understand like why they're like some of what they're saying as an American. Like, yes, I agree with to some degree. The truth is Israel, what they're doing now, more power to them. I love it. I'm so happy that Nasrallah got killed. I'm so happy that all these people are getting what they got coming to them because this is what they should have had coming to them a long time ago. Now it's happening. Iran keeps threatening. There's a whole lot of talking going on. At the end of the day, this is how I look at it. This was all prophesied a long time ago. It was all told. This is what's going to happen one day. These wars are going to happen. Everything's kind of been written on a religious level. Like it's been written down saying this is what's going to happen. And it's beginning to happen in front of our face. So to me, the lesson is stay in my lane. try to be as decent of a person as I can be. Try to be smart in these days because you don't know what's going to happen with the economy. You don't know what's going to happen with anything.
Yeah.
Try to be smart. Try to have a little bit of money put away. Try to have a little bit of, whatever, whether it's a little bit of silver or a little bit of this or a little bit, just be smart. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't know what's going to happen. Be prepared. Right. I'm all for, people stockpiling weapons and, I think that God willing, that it somehow, blows over. I don't see it happening that way. I think we are in too deep. I don't think there's coming back from it. I think that the whole world has gotten to a point that I think Iran outclassed Israel in the sense of they got into
They won the publicity war for sure.
Exactly.
They won the publicity.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. And now the whole world basically is against Israel. And even if the war ended today, it'll never be the same.
I told my parents, and I told actually my friend I was talking to about this too, that I was like, there's no way that I was like, Israel is going to be facing a lot, like, no matter whether they win the war or not, which they already essentially have, right? But they're going to experience anti-Semitism for the rest of the world for probably another 10, 15 years, I imagine, after this. Now, so the reason why I started this podcast to begin with is actually the total opposite of the way that you got successful in your TikTok page, which is after Trump got shot at the first time, right? I went to, I was trying to figure out like what was going on. It happened over Shabbos. So I had my phone. Saturday night, my friend texted me. I'm like, I check it out. And I'm going for a jog. I'm listening to a couple of different podcasts. All of them are inflammatory, incendiary. This could lead to a civil war. I can't believe it. All of this rhetoric that, this is what happens. You guys are dangerous. These people, and rather, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but my opinion is rather if rhetoric is what got people worked up to this extreme that you try to literally shoot someone, forget about someone, a former president, potentially another president of the United States, forget about killing someone, right? Like, I can't imagine being so upset at someone that I would hit them or hurt them or shoot them is like out of the question, like out of my mind, right? And maybe that's because I'm a sheltered, white Jewish kid from New York, but I was like, but if the rhetoric got all this, wouldn't you think that the way to get out of it would be to be more calm, more charitable, more conversational, and not with people. Like, for example, I don't believe that, and by the way, this is just for content. Right. Meaning, I think that there are certain people you really can't talk to, and like I don't talk to them, right? Like, there's certain people that you can have a conversation with them, and you can see it in their eyes that they're just not processing what you're saying. They already have everything, and they're not. And okay, so you know what? Great, we're not going to talk. We're not going to have a conversation. For sure. But there are so many intelligent, articulate, wonderful, thoughtful people out there that could be putting out this thoughtful topic, these thoughtful conversations, and these long form, like almost like, Ari Shaffir is the comedian Ari Shaffir. Yeah. So he was on Tucker Carlson's podcast maybe a month or two ago, and he he goes, one game I like to play is if I hear a news story about someone, it's like, imagine if they're my best friend. And what would I say about that? Like, maybe he did that. It doesn't sound like him, but like, either what kind of benefit of the doubt could I give him, or like, what would I do like about that? Because I think that in today's social media world, one instant could define our entire lives and make or destroy our lives, and it's terrible, I think, right? And so I think we do need more charitable thinking and perspective, when I
agree.
And it's through conversation, right?
I agree. No,
so the reason I wanted to start this was because when I hear that Trump gets shot and then someone goes, this will be a civil war, and I'll be like, I don't want a civil war. I want everyone to just chill out and say, listen, we all want one thing. We want to support our families. We want a future for ourselves and for our kids and for our parents and for our loved ones. And generally speaking, politics, as divisive as it is, typically it's how do we live in the best world that we could live in?
Right.
And what is that best world? And how we try, like, for example, the homelessness problem, right? It used to be a question of what's the best way to go about resolving the homelessness problem? And some people say put money at it. Some people say maybe it's mental health. Some people say it's jobs. And then you could disagree and you could fight and you can argue. But at the end of the day, you're all trying to solve homelessness. You all want that to go away. You don't want to deal with that, right? You want better for those people. You want better for your society. Now, I don't think that people even are even on the same page as to what the problems that we're trying to fix.
Right.
You know, and so I think that the power of a conversation, the power of a podcast, the power of, and why do you think that the top 5 or 10 or 15 podcasts on Spotify are anywhere between an hour and a half and 3 hour long conversations? Because people realize that that's where the value is. Like, that's where you learn. That's what you get. That's where people are getting their news from now, or from podcasts. That's where people are getting like their opinions from, is from having people on that are not that from all different schools of thought and all different perspectives, and they're just talking shit out. You know, they're just figuring it out. You know, and so I want to ride that, and I know that it's like the equivalent of like starting to eat healthy as opposed to eating junk food, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so like junk food is so easy and it's so good and it's so, and like once you get started, like when this was just thing is eating one potato chip. You eat a bag of you eat 5, you eat 15, you eat one potato chip, right? When you're on TikTok and you're watching this junk, or you're on Twitter and you're watching this junk, you know it's junk food for you. Most people don't feel better after they watch that, but people do feel better when they eat a healthy meal, when they consume healthy content. So the point of this is to try to get as many thoughtful and proactive conversations that are not just vehement and black and white and you're an idiot and you're brilliant and you're smart and you're not, and
no, that makes sense.
So and just think, like there's a podcast I was listening to. It's very hard for me, actually. It's very hard for me as a religious Jew and a person that loves Israel. It's called Fear and Loathing in New Jerusalem.
All right.
And by a guy Daryl Cooper, and he does an incredible. It's 6 4.5 5 hour episodes long, about from 1910 to 1948, right? And because Zionism isn't just one thing. Zionism, there's different philosophies, different camps, and then there's different people, and there are different.
Of course.
And what he did was he goes, I will not tell any historical story unless I can relate, sympathize, and articulate what everyone is thinking and feeling on both sides. So it starts off with the Jewish side, and then he goes into the Arab perspective, and he goes back to the Jewish side, and every single time I get defensive, I feel like he's hitting a nerve for me.
Yeah.
And you're like, but like, and then he goes back to like something pro-Israel or pro-Jewish or pro-whatever, and I'm like, oh right, but then I'm like, but why am I having such a hard time listening to the fact that we could have, like, my people could have done something wrong. Like, no one's perfect. No one's done anything, 100% the entire time either. And I think being nuanced is where people learn. It's where people make a difference.
I understand what you're saying.
And I'm not even taking this and applying this to today's conversation, about the war. Just in general.
No, I get what you're saying.
The whole point is that, and a lot of things I talk about on this. I talk about people's lives. I love to hear about people's lives. I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear about where where you're from, what you do, what your relationship is to the family, what relationship, to your friends, to your spouse, to your vices, to whatever it is, and like talking about it, being thoughtful, to politics, to religion, to whatever it is. Like I love talking about all that stuff. And so,
man,
dude,
honestly, you got a wonderful, like, genuine, almost like innocent aura. There's something awesome about.
I try, dude.
There's something great about your personality. There's something very genuine and sweet about you as a person, and I know that you mean what you say about everything what you just said. I'm a little bit more stubborn in the way I see things. Not to say that I couldn't have an open mind. I can, but for me to have an open mind, it has to be really it has to be some logic behind it.
For sure.
Like what you said.
I don't do things. I don't think things baselessly.
Like what you said about are people doing something wrong? I could see that for sure. Like, yes, we could have probably done things different in certain situations. Sure. But at the end of the day, I think that yes, being calm and positive is better than being loud and aggressive. I think talking is better than fighting. I think, being, level headed is better than being hot headed. But at the end of the day, you kind of, I think in life, you deal with what's presented in front of you.
Sure.
You do your best to be those things, but sometimes you're in a situation or in a time, where you might want to be more one way, but unfortunately, and I'll tell you one thing, and then maybe we'll talk about this another time. But you brought up Zionism. I've learned some things about it, right? Some things that I personally wasn't thrilled to learn about it, right?
Okay.
And the truth of the matter is that just one example.
There's like 10 different sects, like 15
Right.
different sects.
And back in the day, and what they did to our own people, and
Sure, yeah.
So a lot of people don't know about that stuff. So at the end of the day, like, am I with those people? No, I pretty much despise those type of people. But on the world stage,
correct,
because because the world can't distinguish what I'm talking about. So if you're asking me, am I with them or against them? I'm with them.
Absolutely. So fine. You know what I mean? 1,000%. What I'll be saying is rather, I agree. For example, let's say myself and my wife, right? Very easy. We bicker. Get in an argument about something stupid,
Sure.
right? I love her. She loves me. We love our marriage. We're building towards something. Taking responsibility sometimes for things that is not right, and demanding accountability for something that is not right.
Yeah.
Both equally, right? They're equally important, but that allows you to grow, and so that you don't do that again.
Yeah.
Right? So for example, with Zionism, if there's something you hear about it that you're not thrilled with, you say, I am a Zionist. I am not happy with this behavior from a particular Zionist, or I think that we could tweak something, but I love our marriage. I love our relationship. I want it to grow and to be better.
Sure.
I don't want to be stuck in just, like, if you never admit that you never do anything wrong, how are you going to be a better person? I mean, if you never, and then you could also put it in the context of, listen, overall, it's very important to do this, but I handled this particular, and I wanted to do this the right way. I handled it incorrectly. I apologize.
Right.
I think that's important. I really, really
agree.
And it doesn't mean you have to compromise your values, and it doesn't mean you don't have to. Doesn't mean you have to change who you are and radically.
For sure.
It just, what? Like, it's like there's the but fallacy. When like someone says something about Biden, you go, but Trump, and you're something about Trump. You're like, but Biden. You're like, but you're not even responding to the things I'm saying. It's not like it's not a showdown. It's a conversation.
Yeah, no.
But
anything after but is bullshit.
Yeah, or I don't mean to be rude, but like that means I'm going to be rude. I'm about to be very Totally, dude.
Cool, man.
Totally.
We should definitely
do
this again, and talk about maybe some of these things more in depth.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot more I want to hear about.
No, for sure.
I want to hear about business. I want to hear about the move. I want to hear about
100%. We'll absolutely do this. And I think this was definitely the first amazing.
First of a bunch, I hope, dude.
Amazing.
Awesome, dude.
And I really appreciated you having me come.
Of course, I'm so happy you took time out of your day, and I saw your phone's blowing up, so I appreciate it, dude.
No, I knew I was going to have a great time with you. I just know that in a little bit I have to pick up my son from his bar mitzvah lesson.
Okay.
And so my wife was asking, she's like, "Are you going to take him?" And I'm like, "No." I'm waiting. Are you going to pick him up? Yes.
All right.
So
I'll call it here then.
But
bye, everyone. All right. Thank you, Elie. I'll talk to you soon, dude.